G'day and welcome to the GameDay Squad NRL Fantasy Show. I'm Stu, that's Dill, and we are the Fantasy Bros. We're back again, partnering with GameDay Squad to bring you all you need to know to succeed in GDS Rugby League this season. Well, not many thought we'd make it here, but the boys in maroon overcame the odds in Game 2 to push the Queensland versus New South Wales series to a deciding match to be played in Sydney this evening. Written off once again, backs against the wall. We head into enemy territory to reclaim what is rightfully ours, with the decider set to kick off in just over 90 minutes. Dill, welcome back from the snow, mate. Before we get into our positional previews this evening, how'd you fare back in Game 2? And have you got any early predictions for the outcome of tonight's decider?
Yeah, g'day, mate. G'day, everyone watching. Joining us now. It is good to be back in Brizzy. I had a great time down at the snow. Obviously, much better internet back in Brisbane compared to on the mountain there. Again, I thank everyone for persevering with that, and appreciate Tommy jumping in. Yeah, mate, I'm really keen for tonight. Obviously, we talked at length the last show, which was our 50th, at how we thought the game would pan out, and we were completely wrong on that aspect. So it's good to see we've gone to a decider, and I've heard a little bit of whisper around that maybe Game 2 is rigged, and that it was always going to come down to Game 3 anyway. But I'm sure those people that are saying that are just wearing some blue, and they're a bit unhappy about what happened in that second game. Yeah, look, it's going to be an absolute cracker. And in terms of GDS, I fared all right last game. I was pretty happy with where I ended up. I'd like to be a little bit closer to the top of that top three going into this final game, though. So I had an eighth in that round 2 on 831 points, about 14 points behind you. But overall on that seasonal ranking, I'm sitting about 45 points behind third, about 70 odd behind first place. So still plenty to play for, plenty of opportunity to maybe get in that top 3. Is that sort of where you're thinking as well this week, this Wednesday?
That's right, mate. Yeah, on screen is the current leaderboard after 2 rounds of the top 15. In saying that, there's every chance that people outside of the top 15 can find the podium at the end of tonight's match because of just how close we all are in points. I think I'm just 31 points off third, and you're not too far behind me down there in 13th. So so still plenty to play for in terms of the season long prize, but also so much to play for just the week as well, with the prizes for the round for tonight's match being incredible for a one-off match as well. So for those people that aren't featuring there on the leaderboard, do not panic. Probably an opportunity to throw up some pods and try to claim the round or the nightly prize as well. I think Dylan and I might be trying to go a little bit safe, maybe with 1 or 2 pods to climb up that leaderboard, since we're pretty close. But look, the season and all the matches have been really, really close. There've been some really, some interesting scores, some big scores where we didn't see it coming, some small scores that weren't predicted either. But really, the round and season is anyone's. We've got Melissa here in the chat. Hello, lads. Hey, everyone. Happy Origin Wednesday. It's the last time we can say that for another 12 months, unfortunately. So, yes, let's savor that feeling. And let's have a quick look at the team lists for this evening, Dill. We'll run through the previews pretty shortly, but we can see on the left-hand side the Queensland team. The dark position there in Hammer indicates a positional swap. He's actually played 3 different positions. I think the first player in Origin history maybe to play in 3 different positions, wear 3 different jerseys across the same series. So he's lining up at fullback there. We've got the man Shibasaki coming into the centers, and my man Josh Papali'i, a recall from rep retirement, straight into the starting jersey for the Queenslanders. And what we can see on the right hand side for the Blues is they're unchanged as well. They made 2 changes in Game 2 just because they had to through injury, and although they lost, they're still coming in with the same squad. Dill, what stands out there? Where are Queensland going to win this match, and where can the Blues win this match as well?
Yeah, I really think it's going to probably be a little bit tighter than last game, and I think it's going to be one up front, and I think Papali'i is going to be a massive inclusion there. He's been playing so well for the Milk over the last few weeks, and being able to get over the try line a couple of times as well. So he, I think he came out and said sort of this is his last go. He's already retired, come out of retirement, back in the fray, and he's going to have one more crack and try and win the game, I think, for them. So that should be massive. The watch is going to be on how Cam Munster probably goes. There's been a lot of talk around how he's going to play after the week that he's had, and hopefully he's sort of able to keep that in mind, but also go out and have a big game for himself and for the state. But whatever he does, we'll always back him and always be proud of what he's done. He could have easily said, no, look, I'm not up for it. And so I'm pretty happy that he's there as well. The other watch for me is Nathan Cleary. He has never won a decider. And I think he's had 3 cracks at it. So it's going to be interesting. It's probably the only game he hasn't won in his career. So it'll be really interesting to see how he stands up for the Blues as well. But yeah, I think the Blues probably look just a little bit better on paper as they have throughout all 3 games, but that Queensland spirit and heart probably might get the best of them tonight.
Absolutely, mate. That's when the boys in maroon play their best. Hey, backs against the wall in enemy territory, written off. Cannot wait for it. All right, mate, let's rip into the positional previews. Hopefully we can give the viewers, the listeners, some idea of who to start, whether they're going to follow us or maybe go against us because they've got a few different ideas. If you're in the comment section, make sure you let us know who you're starting. Fire your questions in as well if you're tossing up between 2 players, and we'll let you know our thoughts. But let's start with the hooker position. We don't have too many differences across our full squad, but we do have a number in the forward packs, and that's starting with the hookers. I've stuck strong with Harry Grant after a big game 2. You're leaning the way of Reece Robson.
Yeah, I think a lot of coaches will probably follow you and do the same thing and go with Grant. So potentially Robson could be a little bit of a pod. Grant, obviously, like you said, he had that massive game 2 performance, 65.6 GDS points during that Queensland victory. But the one thing I hate doing is chasing points from last games. And I'm just a little bit conscious of that. Game 1, I went with Grant and he finished on 26 points. Following game, I went with Robson, who scored 54 in that first game. And then he had a disappointing 35 in the second game. So I can't get my hooker right at the moment. So I'm just going to lean back to Robson slightly because both players really score points through mainly those base stats and tackles and some small running meters and not too much else. There's probably a little bit of attacking upside and maybe a try assist here or there. But the difference for me is Harry's missed 8 tackles across the first 2 games, whereas Robbo's only missed 1 in each game. So I think that's a big determinant for me to go with Robbo and hope that he just tackles his heart out and doesn't miss too many.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll do that. But for me, it's matter of that he'll be doing that for 60 minutes tops. We've seen the New South Wales game plan and how they're going to use Connor Watson. And even when they were, behind in the game, they could have really injected Connor Watson before halftime or just after the break to get a roll on. But look, Laurie Daly stuck to what the plan was, and he came on again with 20 to go. So we know we're going to get 60 minutes out of Reece Robson unless, something drastic happens. But there's every chance we get 80 minutes out of Harry Grant. And look, that might mean more missed tackles during that extra 20 minutes. But you and I both talk about the importance of an 80-minute hooker, someone who's on the field for as long as possible, making as many tackles as possible and involved in some attack. Now, if the game does come down to the wire in those final minutes, you can bet, Harry Grant's going to be doing everything he can, probing out a dummy half there, going at the line himself, throwing offloads, those sorts of things. So the fact that he's probably more likely to stay on the field for an extra 20 minutes is why I've gone for him over Reece Robson at the moment. We saw that Mann was just used as that middle forward with some leg speed either side of halfway, and there was some question marks about whether he would replace Harry Grant and spell him, particularly after some lower leg injuries for Harry Grant. But he was great in that 80 minutes, and maybe that's what he needs at Origin level. Just knows that he's going the distance, and he's just going to rip in for the full 80. So the fact that Mann was used sparingly in that middle role and not to save him at hooker means that I'm a little bit more confident in starting Harry Grant this match. Although I think the biggest pod play out of all is actually playing both of these guys, and I'm actually tempted to do that myself. We'll obviously talk about some middles and edges shortly, and probably that second forward bench spot that we'll see a lot of difference between coaches. And playing a Reece Robson and Harry Grant could be the ultimate pod for someone looking to gain. I'm even half tempted to do that at the moment. What do you think about that?
I don't mind it. Although we talk about a lot the hooker position. Sort of, there's not a huge amount of upside, and we can see that really with. I guess Grant's sort of 65 is probably the ceiling for most hookers, especially at this level in terms of Queensland versus New South Wales. But look at that and compared to something like a Liam Martin or or maybe even Hudson Young coming off the bench, and maybe there's a little bit more upside to that hooker, that particularly if they get a try assist or even dot over for a try, and there's every opportunity to get 60 plus from them. So yeah, I don't mind it at all. The thing that I'm tossing over again is whether we spend any salary cap on the hooker position, and whether we both know that they're the only two options. So really the only two options that you're going to play from your hooker position. So do you be a little bit smarter and just pot up with that salary, knowing that pretty much most other coaches are going to play one or both of those? So that's sort of where I'm sitting at the moment. I know we talked about game 2. I probably wouldn't use a Queensland versus New South Wales card for a hooker, but yeah, maybe I'm starting to lean that way just because the potential to pod based on that salary.
Yeah, I think most coaches will be running that bronze, but if they do own the Queensland versus New South Wales card, they'll be definitely tempted to play that. So there'd probably be a big disparity between the bronzes played and the Queensland versus New South Wales card, which is the 1.4 multiplier, isn't it? So yeah, I don't think we'll get too many silvers, golds, or plats, but there could be a big difference in terms of the diamond versus the bronze, and that's where you could probably get a bit of an advantage or pot up against those that are just locking in that safe bronze score. Interesting. Some things to consider already.
Definitely. Alrighty, moving on to middles. I think they're pretty much sewn up, aren't they? The two clear players in Yo and House, I think, are your mainstays, and then we've got a couple of differences there as well. Did you want to talk through Tino over someone like Lero and Max King?
Yeah, look, like I said before, I'm not sold on my final bench spot. Tino is that final middle bench, or the fifth middle at the moment. We don't obviously need to talk too much about Haas and they're staples. It's probably just about whether or not how much salary you want to put into those blokes. And we know that Haas is nursing that injury. It's been reported that he's good to go. But like, I don't know, I find it tough to load up a heap of salary just in case he is a bit underdone, or he's hampered through the match. So if I had a Queensland versus New South Wales card, I'd play him for sure. I'm probably hesitant to throw even a gold or a plat, so it might be just a silver for me. But that's something for coaches to consider. My fifth forward or fourth middle at the moment is Tino. Yeah, I could go a Learo or a King like you have, but Tino's had an underwhelming series so far. We know what he's capable of, though, and his form at the Titans, despite carrying that injury as well, has been so different to what he's actually produced in Maroon these two matches. So just the 44 minutes in game 2 for 28 points for Tino with only 58 run meters, which I thought was crazy. In 60 minutes for the Titans, he's been averaging 150 plus run meters. He's also breaking 4.5 tackles and getting 2 or 3 offloads as well. And he's just not getting that in Maroon at the moment. So I think this is the match where Tino probably looks at his performance. It's all or nothing, and he's just going to have to rip in for the full 80 minutes. As long as he's on the field and that might be 40 to 50 minutes. But it's just what I know his upside can be. But he certainly hasn't passed the eye test in the last 2 matches, which is why I think he'll be a bit of a pod. But B, I think he's certainly capable of a big score. And if he manages to break a few of those tackles, or, if him and Papa can get a roll on early and he gets a bit of confidence, I can see him having a bit of a big one. It's tough. It's a toss up. Yep. Anyone in the comments thinking of playing Tino, let me know why or why not. But I think your boys in Maxi King and Trent Liero are probably safer. Probably don't have a high ceiling, but their floor's probably a little bit bigger. Although, King had that really interesting stint of 25 minutes and didn't really come back on. So why Liero and King, mate?
Yeah, well, first on Tino, I guess the thing for me that kind of scares me off is that 25 first game, the 28 the second game. It's all down to his demerits. The 5 missed tackles, 3 errors, and 1 penalty across 2 games. It's just too many points that he's losing. He probably needs to be way more consistent and then have a lot more running meters. And like you said, if Papa can get the ball rolling and Tino joins in, then maybe that's going to be a different story. But I think all eyes might be on Papa to make that role happen. And then sort of Tino maybe has that opportunity to offload, which again could be some attacking upside, but as well, that with that offload, there's always that risk of an error or a turnover. So it's a little bit of a nervy one for me. But yeah, I'm going to go with King definitely. Obviously, it was a poor option in game 2 after getting the nod to start with Barnett out for the rest of the season. King lasted that 25 minutes, as you said. He mustered 23.7 GDS points, so close to 1 point per minute, which I don't mind. The interesting thing for me, if you look on the other side at someone like Hudson Young, who came off the bench, played almost double the amount of time, but only scored an extra 6 odd points in 30.9 GDS points. So his PPM is sort of all over the place and probably not consistent. We saw him have a big game in that first one due to his tackle breaks in terms of Hudson Young. So I think I'm just going to take another punt on King, that safe option. Game one, he had 39 minutes. He scored 39 points. So we get that 1 PPM. If we can see him get something more consistent to his club average on field of about 51 minutes, I think he should be a pretty good option. But it's just knowing whether he is going to get that time or whether that 25 minutes in that game too was part of the tactical decision to take him off and have some fresh legs play the majority of the match. I'm just not quite sure what the thought behind King not having as many minutes as possible. But I still really like him over someone like Tino just because he's going to get that 1 PPM, I know, and Tino, he's just got so many demerits in him. The other player that I'm really keen on is Trent Liero as well. I really like that he's got an opportunity, I think, starting at lock again. He's got a little bit more consistency in him over someone like Tino as well, 32 and 43 in the first 2 games. And then, look, he's got a demerit or 2 in him as well. But I think just like game 2, he should see more minutes, more opportunity to be able to build that score. I think he had 55 minutes at lock in game 2 compared to, as you said, that 44 from Tino. So time on park is obviously going to be gold in these kind of games, particularly when I think it's just going to be a bit of a forwards battle from majority and then some opportunities late in the first half and late in the second half as well. So, yeah, I'm leaning those at the moment. But as we always say, come 7 o'clock or 7:05, that could really change. If Hudson Young's named to start or something's thrown in there, I feel like I might be able to make some changes, particularly to those bench forwards.
Yeah, really interesting that use of Max King in game 2 there, just that one stint and, not really having any impact. Still getting through his just close to 1 point per minute. But if he's not on the field for long enough, he's not going to score any points. He is capable of, 50 to 60 minutes. We've seen that at Clubland. But if he's not needed for that in Sky Blue, then he's just not going to score us enough points. So there's my hesitation around him. He does have that floor if he's only going to see 25 to 30 minutes. Tino's got that ceiling, even if it's only 45 minutes. He can do a lot more in that time and hopefully, reduce some of those errors. So there is certainly some upside there in King if he does see some more minutes, get those minutes closer to game 1. So I'm just, really unsure about the coaching or the thought process there with time on field. But look, whatever worked in game 1, the Blues will probably want to go back to, and that's more likely to see Maxi King with a few more minutes. Alrighty, plenty to talk about in terms of the edge forward position. Have I got that right on screen that you're running the 2 middles on your bench and Capewell and Crichton are starting?
Yeah, I think that's how I'm going to roll. I'm still nervous about Capewell again chasing last game's points, and he's probably got more upside than someone like Liam Martin. And they're actually, in terms of stats, Liam Martin and Capewell are actually really close together. Since 2021, Martin's had an average score of 30. Capewell just a little bit better on 37. Martin's had a low of 9. Capewell's had a low of 0. And Martin's had a high of 51 and Capewell, obviously that last game had a 70 there. So yeah, really similar stats. And there's obviously that upside and that downside for both players. But I think probably Capewell's just a little bit more consistent when starting in that second row spot. But even the matchup stats between the two teams don't show a lot of difference. Both teams allowing an average of 37 to the position since 2021. So, yeah, maybe leaning Capewell, just hoping more so than anything that he has some attacking stats because Queensland are going to play so well, more so over any kind of stats that are jumping out to me at the moment. A bit more of a vibe feel for me. And then I think Angus Crichton's just a lock. I think pretty much every coach is going to play him. Any coaches that held firm in game 2 with Gus were rewarded with that 57.5 GDS points. It was due to a try and a try assist as well, so a little bit inflated probably than what we're used to. Although if we can see that again from Angus, there's no reason why he can't get into those 60s. And we know he's playing 80 minutes on the edge, so it's just an easy one for me. But yeah, it's probably just Capewell just in front. And then sort of the look at Hudson Young, and I'm just not sure about the opportunity that he's going to get and how he's going to use that opportunity. We know he loves to rip and tear when he does get on the field, and we've seen him play sort of that middle sweeping play wherever you want type role. It'd be unreal if he was named to start. And I would definitely be jumping on him if he was named to start.
Yeah, gee, who would have thought we'd be talking about Big Kurt Capewell as a starter in our GDS sides for a Queensland versus New South Wales decider? Look, he was incredible in his game 2 recall. He played the full 80, 37 tackles, 4 tackle breaks, 104 run meters, but most impressively, just the 2 missed tackles. And that's been the big start. That's been the big negative for his not just season, but probably a big part of his career as well. He'd averaged 5.5 missed tackles for the Warriors just this season, but there were matches where he'd missed 7, 9, 8, 10, and another 7 tackles in the match. So that was a big reason why we faded him last match, just expecting a lot of traffic to go his way and those sort of missed tackle numbers to continue. But just the 2 in 80 minutes was remarkable and a big reason why he had that massive score. And I can just see us going to him this game and things going a little bit differently for Queensland, maybe not just in one half, but maybe in 2 halves. And he's falling off a few more and gassing out earlier and that sort of thing. And he's back to that Liam Martin floor of a 17 or a 20. But look, he was really impressive. He just bleeds maroon, doesn't he? One of those guys that aren't amazing at club level, that just get the job done, who have some really big matches here and there. But when he puts on that maroon jersey, he's just that, solid 7 out of 10 every single time. Yep. So hoping to see a bit more of that and certainly much nicer bloke than Liam Martin. So it's easier to plug him into the team than Big Marto. But no, I really like Hudson Young and I'm going back to him again. I tried to talk you into him last match. I think you might have made the change. It didn't really pay off, but it didn't really suffer too much in terms of who outscored him. But what was most pleasing was the 46 minutes that he did get after just the 26 minutes in game 1. He was on a tear in game 1, 45 points in those 26 minutes, but he played 46 minutes off the bench in game 2, and that was considerably more than any other bench player. And although, the numbers the fantasy score didn't really reflect that increase in minutes, he still broke 5 tackles, but that was negated by 6 missed tackles, which, isn't typically the way that he plays. He doesn't normally miss more than he breaks. So for me, that's not too much of an issue. The big tick for me is the 46 minutes and the fact that he's being trusted, with some big minutes through the middle. And he's coming on at a great time as well. That 25 to 30 minute mark. Some of the boys are gassing out. Harry Grant's looking for that halftime spell if he's going the distance. So I think there's a real opportunity where he can rack up some points either side of halftime. And I just see there being a little bit more upside over, that Max King or Trent Liero type as my 5th bench player or 4th bench player. Simply because, he might be on the field for a little bit less minutes than them, but what he does when he's on the field is so much better in terms of attacking output. So what else can I do to talk you into playing Hutto, mate? Is there any chance this match, or you're gonna leave him to me this match?
Maybe if someone has a Queensland versus New South Wales Hudson Young lying around that they want to trade me, maybe I'd be then more inclined to do so.
I think that's a big reason I'm playing him, because I've got that card.
You're not meant to give it away, mate. There's got to be a couple of secrets about our team. Look, I do really love Hudson Young, and like I said, I'd love to see him start. But obviously, if he does start, I think a lot of people will be jumping on him pretty quick to get him into their sides. So he might not be that pod that you're hoping he's going to be from there. So I'm nervous, and I'll always be nervous when he comes on the field and what he can do, because we've seen it so often for Canberra. Just before we move on, is there any thought of you playing Papali'i there in the middles, just to one last hurrah? You're a Canberra boy.
Yeah, I'd like to, but no, I don't know. I want him to have a ripper, and I think he'll have a big game. But I can see him being used a bit like sort of Mo Fodawaker was, where he just sort of starts, maybe only 15 he'll get, just to sort of take that sting out of the game, and then maybe come back on for the final 10, 15. That's probably worst case. And he's obviously a lot older now, so the legs aren't moving as well as they were, but he gets up for big games. We saw what he did, in his milestone game there a couple of weeks ago down in the nation's capital with a double. This is as big as it gets, really, an Origin decider in his farewell match after retiring from the rep scene. So yeah, look, there could be a fairy tale ending with Big Papa crashing over underneath the sticks in the 78th minute for the Maroons to win. But look, I'm just thrilled that he's getting the start. I think if anything, it's more of that positive and experienced influence in the dressing room more than anything than what he's going to offer on the field, really. And him and Mo Fodawaker, there's not too much difference between them, but the experience that he's going to provide the boys around him going to give him a big boost. And if he can get the footy under his arm, 3 or 4 times in the first 2 or 3 sets and get over the advantage line, and then Tino follows up after him, I think that's, really going to pump the boys up and spur them on for a big match. So I think he's got a big role to play in little minutes, but it's probably more so what he does off the field than his fantasy numbers. So no, he won't make my team, but look, it wouldn't surprise me if someone finishes in the top 10 with Papali'i. We know he can be damaging close to the line. We know Harry Grant will use him if it's on, and he only needs to grab the ball from 2 or 3 meters out and fall over the top of 2 blokes, and that's already a nice solid 16 or 18 points to our fantasy scores. And we could be texting each other going, "Oh, I wish I did that," but no, I hadn't really thought too much about that. But there you go.
If it's anything like his milestone game, he crashes over for 2 and then has a kick at goal as well, just to win the game. So he'll go up in 3s as well as 10s. You watch it. The other thing I really like is a couple of Warriors have made a contribution to the series, as well as a couple of Raiders. So a couple of our boys are being, getting involved in Origin level, and something we haven't probably seen for a while. So it's good to see that our club sides are being represented really well. Alrighty, let's move on and have a chat about the halves. And like I said, the first one obviously is Nathan Cleary. He's obviously got a lot to shoulder for New South Wales. We know he's the GOAT at NRL level, but as I said, he's never won a decider. And last game, he looked out of sorts. He didn't have a great game. And, as a result, anyone that played a big salary on Nathan Cleary, expecting some big points, just were rewarded with that. Is that something you're still going to go back to? Is it still going to be a gold, platinum, or even a diamond Cleary in a team, or are you going to play a bit safer here?
No, I think I will chase some big salary on Nathan Cleary. We had the reports that he was quite underdone for that game. He was heavily strapped and was grimacing a little bit. He didn't have the kicking tee. There are a number of factors that probably influenced that poor score. But look, he's had one match since then. I think he was rested after the game. He didn't travel across to New Zealand, so by all reports, he is fit and fine. It'd be great to turn on the telly and see him without any strapping on his leg from a fantasy perspective, that is. But look, that game 1 score of 96 was incredible. The 30 was disappointing, but that's not who Nathan Cleary is. We saw just how hampered he was from that injury. And you said it, he hasn't won an Origin decider. He's played 3, he's featured in 3 game 3s. 2 of them were deciders. He lost both, and the other one was a chance for a 3-0 series whitewash, and the Maroons got up there as well. So all those were played at Suncorp though. So that's the big difference. I think he's got, maybe a bit more responsibility leading the boys at home in front of the crowd to lift that shield in front of them. So he's done it all in terms of club footy, 4 premierships on the trot. He's just got to do it in this arena, and there's no better time or no better occasion for him to do it than tonight. So I think it'll really be a coming of age for him, or that's a bit silly to say that he's to about a 4-time premiership player, but there's even talks about will he even be in a sky blue jersey next year with Moses and Isaiah Katoa? To me, that's sort of pretty ridiculous, but I think tonight will sort of he's going to really want to go out there and stamp his name on this arena and show that he can get it done in the biggest situations. And there's no bigger moment for him in his career up to this point now to win a State of Origin decider on home turf. So I'm pretty confident in him, provided that he is looking okay in the warm-up. We know that he won't be kicking goals, but for me, that's okay. There's probably one less thing for him to worry about. He'll still get plenty of kick meters if the game's on the line. We only need to, go back to that 2023 grand final and see what he can do in the space of, 15 minutes to lift his team off the canvas. He's the only one of probably only 2 players out there on the field tonight that have the ability to do that. The other one being Cam Munster, of course. So yeah, I'm going to load up some salary on him, whether it's a plat or even a diamond. That's something I'm toying around with.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, and I'm the same. I'm really going to look to use some salary, and I might even make some changes last minute going into that with some of those cards. Look, Nathan Cleary, like you said, first game this season, or this series, sorry, 96.7. Second game, less than 30. So, but we know he's got that ceiling as well, as he had 114 in a previous game last year. 2 years ago, and then a couple of 70s and 50s there as well. So we know he's definitely got the game and the attitude to go out there and have a big one in terms of fantasy, and hopefully he can have a big fantasy game while Queensland still win overall. And that's sort of where I'm heading with my other two halves in both Munster and Dearden. I think they've got a lot of responsibility to shoulder. I think they did a really great job in game two. I think between them they combined for 100 points in terms of GDS in game two, which is great to see. You compare that to Jerome Luai, who finished on -9. I think that's a bit scary to consider having a negative score. It's obviously worse than a donut, and I think some people might want to play Kalen Ponga instead of Jerome Luai if they're thinking about him. But yeah, for me, as I touched on at the start of the show, it's going to be all about Munster and how he responds to the week. And hopefully, like I said, he has made the right decision for himself, given the circumstances, to come out and play. He obviously is proud to wear the jersey and keen to represent the state. So hopefully the emotion is not too big for him, and he can get the job done. And I think he's going to be an absolute key part of why Queensland will come away with a win, and it'll be his running meters. I think 130 last game that he had, and his kicking meters as well, which surprisingly we talked about it last game, where we thought Dearden might take more control of the kicking, but it was Munster who did that. The concern obviously is Munster's demerits in missed tackles and 6 agains. He doesn't mind a missed tackle, and he doesn't mind giving away a 6 again. So if he can tidy up those, I think he's going to have a massive game. And I think it's pretty simple. I think most coaches are going to go the way of the two Queenslanders and put Cleary in the middle there as well.
Yeah, look, there's no hiding the fact that what Cam Munster's going through right now is obviously incredibly difficult. And I don't think any of us would have batted an eyelid if he ruled himself out of tonight's game, given the recent passing of his father. So look, regardless of the result, the way he plays tonight, it's a monster effort, I think, just to get up for this week of training and get up for the match. But he's leading the boys out as well in a must-win match. It must be incredibly difficult. It's going to be an incredibly emotional occasion for him. We've seen him at his absolute best, when Queenslanders have their backs against the wall. But look, this situation is totally different. Will it galvanise him and the team? Look, maybe, but I don't really care. This is bigger than footy, and I'm just glad that maybe for 80 minutes he might be able to forget about that grieving process for just a little bit, and he'll go out there and make his dad proud, just like he does every single time that he laces up those footy boots for his beloved state. We've seen just how good he was in that Queensland's worst team in Origin history, and how much he stood out in that match. Look, it wouldn't surprise me. He's an absolute freak. He could have a 10 out of 10 performance and steer the boys to victory. He might find the going really, really tough, and the result might not go our way. But just to get up for this match, incredibly impressive from him. And I can't wait to see how the boys respond around him. And I'm really excited to see just how much the others stand up as well and get around him. It brings me goosebumps just thinking about it. I think Tommy Dearden, easy selection over Luai. You would have been better off starting Mitchy Moses for a 0. You would have been at least 9 points better off. 4 missed tackles, 3 penalties conceded. I'll tell you what, if you're game enough to run him in your team and he outscores one of those 3 halves listed on the screen, then well played to you. Look, I don't think he's going to get in the negatives again, but we know his role in this team. It's second fiddle to that man, Nathan Cleary. He'll be getting as much clean ball to Latrell and Angus as he can, and Nathan Cleary will be doing a lot of the steering on both sides of the field. So, Luai, he might find himself with a try assist with or 2 with the boot, or scoring 1 himself. But look, I think Tommy Dearden's running game is so much better. He's pretty creative as well. He'll link up nicely with a number of those players on his inside and his outside, and with Hammer out the back, anything can happen as well. So Cleary, Munster, easy, and Dearden still a pretty long way away from Jerome Luai.
Yeah. And just before, the teams are probably going to be dropped any moment now. If you wanted some stats to back up Dearden versus Luai, New South Wales allow 46.9 GDS points on average to all right side halves, and then Queensland only allow 32 to all left side halves since 2021. So there's definitely a statistical advantage there for Dearden as well. And yeah, definitely you don't want to be left with a negative score there. Luai's not going to get that again, like you said, but he is only averaging 28.5 across his Origin or his New South Wales versus Queensland career. So it's probably a better option to look for someone like Tommy Dearden, who's sort of averaging around those 45s at the Origin level. So it's a much more safer opportunity. Obviously, it is 7:05, so we should be getting some teams soon. So if you are in the chat and you do see the teams, can you please let us know? We're going to jump across as well. You can head over to nrl.com.au and they should have the teams there. Hopefully, if they're finalised. If not, we might move on. And then we'll come back to team lists when they are. Have we got the latest?
A quick refresh?
Yeah, I'm having a quick look now, having a refresh.
What are your predictions quickly? Any changes? I don't think
there would be. I don't feel like there needs to be any changes. And it looks like
New South Wales is confirmed. 1 to 17 with Kiraz 18th man.
Yeah, I haven't got a Queensland list yet. So let's continue and we'll come back to that in a moment. Let's jump across to the centres.
Just quickly.
Oh, sorry.
Well, just quickly, and this works for the centres as well, but what would have really been interesting if right now a massive curveball, and it was probably maybe like part of Billy Slater's plans, maybe 10%, was Reece Walsh coming in at fullback, hammer to the centres, Shibasaki 18th man.
Aww.
Wouldn't that just be an absolute curveball to anyone? I'm sure New South Wales probably would have talked about it as a possibility. But look, Slater's obviously chosen hammer there, and Shibasaki's been rewarded for some really good form. But wouldn't it be funny refreshing your feed and seeing Reece Walsh at fullback there at number 1? Alrighty, the centres. We got a difference finally in the backs. I think our outside backs have been pretty similar in both games 1 and 2. We're both running Val Holmes again. He still doesn't fill me with a super amount of confidence. He's been moved back to the wing where he had an even worse performance in game 1. But you've gone off Stephen Crichton and you like Rob Toyer. Talk us through why Toyer over Crichton.
Look, we talked about Toyer in his debut all the way back before game 1 and said he's probably going to have a tough time at Suncorp, and he really stood up and showed why he was picked for that Queensland versus New South Wales game, and he probably did the same thing again really in that second game. He started his Origin career with a 40.8 and then a 34.67 without too many really attacking stats to his name. It's all just been through those base stats and in base and power. So it's great to see that. He's putting in the hard yards and he's doing his job. I would love to see some more attacking stats out the back of it. The concern still for me, though, with Toyer is 6 missed tackles across the 2 games. It's almost 20 points that he's leaving out on the field. And in fact, that is 1 for 1 in terms of missed tackles to tackle breaks as well. So we're not even being rewarded with an extra tackle break or 2 there. In saying that, Critter, we herald him all day for his defensive work and how good he is in defense. He doesn't offer a huge number of attacking stats. I think he scored a try and still only ended up on about 30 points, which is not a great effort. He's also missed 6 tackles across the first 2 games. So his defensive work hasn't been up to scratch as well, like we've seen in the past. So I think I'm going to go Toyer with just a little bit more in the tank, potentially a little bit more opportunity to break a few more tackles and to potentially have that attacking upside versus someone like Stephen Crichton, who he will tackle all day and he will do his best, but he's just not really that last pass for a try assist. He's just not really the one that gets the ball to get over the line. He's sort of that line runner that the ball goes out the back behind him to Edwards sweeping around. He doesn't really get involved too much in attack. So I think I'm just going to go with Toyer with a little bit more upside potentially, going against probably my safe play, which I went in game 2.
Yeah, I don't mind those numbers and everything you've said there about Rob Toyer. There's probably two things that lead me to play Holmes or Crichton over him. And first one is Latrell Mitchell hasn't had, he's been barely recognisable in those first two matches, and that's, we don't say that a lot about Latrell Mitchell having, two matches where he's pretty quiet. Yes, he's playing out in the centre where he doesn't, have the same level of involvement that he does playing for the Rabbitohs in Clubland. But look, he's always got, those two or three big runs, the big fens, but he hasn't really seen to do much of that this series so far. And a big reason for that is, of course, Rob Toy has been pretty solid, but so has the Maroons, right-hand side. That leads me to believe that Latrell's going to have his moment. And this is just a gut thing. The stats don't really back this up or say it, but Latrell's going to have a moment, and it might be more than one moment. I don't think he's ever lost an Origin series. I might be wrong there, but I think every series that he's played that he's won. So there's already an advantage there, New South Wales. And look, he's a big game player, Latrell Mitchell is, but so is Stephen Crichton. I think he scored a try in all of those grand final victories that he played in for the Penrith Panthers. He had that, magnificent run of scoring tries in grand finals back to back to back. So he's just that big game player as well. And I think this is, another sort of gut feel where the stats don't necessarily back it up, but this is the game where guys like Stephen Crichton really shine. And you and I, the bookies are saying that the Blues are going to get up. I think the line's about 8.5 points as well. So it's not typically expected to be a super close game. 8.5 is still, 1.5 tries, or 2 tries, which can be a lot in Origin footy. But look, if that does happen, if our guts are right and the Blues, are a little bit better than Queensland this evening, I think, Latrell Mitchell and Stephen Crichton are going to have a big say in that. So that's why I like Stephen Crichton over Rob Toyer. But you might have talked me into maybe a Toyer shout over Val Holmes. He's, been pretty disappointing in Maroon. We know that he gets through a lot of demerits. He's back to the wing where he scored 21.3 in game 1. Look, Toyer's 30 and 44, without really doing too much. There's maybe a bit more upside with Val on the wing if he can find a break or two. They're going to kick for him whenever they can as well. Yeah, that's a tough one. Hadn't really thought too much about going away from those two, but if I am, a Toyer over Val Holmes could be pretty popular.
Yeah, and just to add to some of those thoughts, I guess, and some tossing up between those two players, Holmes on the wing has averaged 23.9 GDS points since 2021 for Queensland. When he plays at the centre, that increases to 33, which aren't great numbers, but 10 points difference between the centre and wing for Holmes. That's quite a big number there, and probably could be the difference tonight between a 10th and a first. Potentially, it might come down to something that small in a competition that's so close, like GameDay squad, Queensland versus New South Wales. So that's definitely a decision that needs to be made. Look, I'm going Holmes as well with zero confidence. That I think the thing that I like about someone like Toyer, even Shibasaki to an extent, New South Wales allowed an average of 41.6 to centres, a little bit lower on the right side than the left, so a little bit higher on the left side. So if Shibasaki finds himself on that left side, he could be all right. But if Toyer's there on the left, then wheels up, I think, for Toyer. And then Holmes, again, New South Wales have only allowed 25 points to left wingers since 2021. So Holmes, again, he might only end up with that 25, 24 that he's averaged. So, maybe it's a no Holmes night for us and we look somewhere else. Maybe we even look at someone like Shibasaki, who's sort of an unknown, going to make his debut in game 3, probably the toughest position to make a debut. And, away from home, game 3, when the game's on the line, you're coming into the side with heaps of form. He's been red hot for the Broncos, but who knows what that's going to bring up in terms of how Shibasaki plays, with the rest of them. So, will be really interesting.
I'll tell you what, if Shibasaki has a big game and maybe scores the match winner, there'll be plenty of blokes rolling around Brisbane City tomorrow with the Shibasaki beard. Is there any chance that you're going to grow one of them out if he gets it done for the Maroons?
Yeah, maybe I might have to get that that stencil that was going around just to get the shave happening.
Righto, we've got Gibson in the chat.
Gibson.
G'day, Gibson. Gibson's watching from Papua New Guinea. Gibson wants to know if we're going to be watching the game live here. Look, Gibson, sorry, mate, we're not going to be watching the game live here. What Dylan and I are doing is we're previewing the decider and telling our viewers, everyone, that they should be considering to play for the Game Day squad fantasy team. So we're actually going to log off in about half an hour's time and put some pizza in the oven and watch the game ourselves. But if you don't currently play Game Day Squad, it's a really good opportunity for you to get involved. Stay tuned and listen to some of the tips from Dylan and I. And if you're currently not playing Game Day Squad, follow us on Instagram and we'll let you know how to get started. We'll give you a couple of packs that you can open up. And while you're watching the game tonight, you can cheer on some of the boys that you play in your team. So thanks for joining us all the way there from Papua New Guinea. If you're still there in the comments, mate, let us know who you're going for. My prediction is the mighty Queensland Maroons.
Surely.
But yeah, good on you. Thanks for joining us, Gibson. Hope you can find somewhere to watch the game tonight if that's what you were looking for.
Unreal. And just quickly before we move on, Mel has confirmed Reece Walsh is the 18th man. So your theory behind Slater's last-minute swap, not quite. And I'm pretty happy with that. I think I would probably hate Reece Walsh coming in last minute. So I think it would disrupt my team quite a lot. So I'm pretty happy that he is just going to be the 18th man there.
If I forget, just when we at the fullback section, at the end of the fullback section, just remind me if I forget, but I've got a massive pod play for anyone looking to go. The biggest difference that you can play possibly tonight. I think you might know what I'm alluding to there. But let's if I forget, let me know. Anyway, wingers, pretty safe to lock in both Zachy Lomax and Brian To'o. Are there any other options that we could start, Dylan? Why Lomax and why To'o above them all?
Is there an option? There is a third option, but I don't know why anyone would want to play him. It's Coates.
Yeah.
And he's just too unreliable. We congratulated coaches in the game 2 preview who risked Coates in game 1. You're rewarded with 52 points.
Yeah, wow.
For him getting over the line, but then didn't really pay off if he persisted in game 2. He returned that with only 7 GDS points in game 2. So I really, the highs and lows of Xavier Coates with the maroon jersey is at full extent there. And I think it's just the safer option to have that simple play of running both the New South Wales wingers in To'o and Lomax. They obviously have a much greater floor in terms of their running meters, in terms of the tackle break opportunities, in terms of their tackles, as well as their try scoring ability. And we saw that with To'o last game where he scored three tries and 75 odd GDS points there to finish that game off as well. So I think those are much easier decisions compared to some of the others that we need to make. The other thing, Queensland allowed an average of 45 GDS points to both sides of the field for the wingers since 2021. Whereas New South Wales have only allowed 25, as I said before, to both sides of the field for wingers. So both Val and Coates are going to have a bit of a struggle, I think, in terms of scoring points tonight, if the stats are anything to go by. So I think Lomax and To'o, pretty simple. The question is, knowing that most coaches are going to go that way, do we play a higher salary on someone like To'o who has that game-breaking ability? Or do we look at Lomax and maybe play the high salary on Lomax who has that great ability to jump up in the air and get a ball and dot over the line?
Yeah, I think you could probably look at both of those players at some salary increase as well, just given how likely they are to find the try line and how good their run meters and tackle breaks are, even if they don't find the try line. We're expecting a grind. We're not expecting one team to, shoot out of the gates to a 24-0 lead and another team to grind their way back. We're expecting it to be pretty tight, and we've seen these two blokes average 150 to 200 run meters week in, week out for their club sides, and they've done it in Origin footy before as well. So there's so much upside for these two guys, and we saw maybe a light bulb moment, sort of things clicked for the Blues last match, And that's when they decided to go left almost every single attacking opportunity. And that's why Brian Toto scored so many tries in that second half and almost scored that match winner nice and late as well. They know that side is an attacking strength of theirs. They know that side is a defensively weak side of ours as well. So, yeah, I think Brian Toto is in line for another big match. It also wouldn't surprise me if that script gets flipped on its head entirely and Zachy Lomax is a benefactor there on the right-hand side. There is some chance that Lomax will retain the kicking duties. There was some footage through the week of Latrell Mitchell having plenty of goal kicking as well. But look, Zach Lomax hasn't been kicking them that well for his state. A great kicker in clubland. Nathan Cleary, very unlikely. So it probably comes down to Lomax or Latrell. And that's just another reason why some salary for Zachy Lomax after his impressive 55 in game one, could benefit some coaches. For me, the way that my team is structured, it'll be a bronze or a silver for Lomax.
Yeah,
I'll give another secret away. I do have a Brian Toto Queensland versus New South Wales card that I love seeing there in my winger spot. And hoping other people have to use plenty of salary to catch up to my 1.4 multiplier for him.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I've got a Lomax Queensland versus New South Wales, and I think I'm going to play a silver Toto. So
yeah, nice.
That'll be a good little battle between us two there. Look, couple of points you raised there. Firstly, the 24 points. Interesting that you raised that. Queensland have never lost a game after scoring 24 points. So if Queensland can go out to 24 points early on, it should be game done and dusted. The other thing, Toto just needs one more try to have the most tries in a New South Wales jersey, and that is 11. So I predict that he probably breaks that record tonight, and he will dot over for at least one, which usually when we see him dot over for one, there's probably a second one coming. And we know that when he scores, those stats obviously, or that score obviously increases significantly, where he's looking at sort of high 70s, even into the 80s across a number of games that he's played in that New South Wales jersey. So I think two easy options. A lot of salary play around with there, and we can move on to probably not so hard decision, but something to finish us off in terms of the fullbacks. And I think you and I are probably pretty similar in our thought process around three fullbacks. Greatest opportunity to score points and probably have the highest ceiling of everyone. So use that wisely and put the three fullbacks in.
Yeah, absolutely. Although we haven't really seen a big, attacking return from all three of these guys, save for obviously, Hammer scoring 2 tries last match, but still only scoring that 45.4 points. So Latrell, Dylan Edwards have been quiet from their standards. Hammer is returning to his, club position there at fullback, but sometimes him playing on the wing is more fortuitous for his fantasy score. And we saw that last week when he had a little bit of space close to the line. He can easily finish those tries in the corner. But in the same instance, he's got the same opportunity, kick returning, but also sweeping both sides of the fields out the back from the two halves as well. So any bit of space for Hamaso, and we know just how deadly he is in terms of his speed and footwork. But, it could just be a ball bouncing around and him getting to it first in the halfway line and then racing away 50 meters untouched to score a try, which is it's massive amounts of points for GDS fantasy as well. So, yeah, look, Hammer, Latrell, Dill Edwards, expecting a really big game here from Latrell. But I think Hammer and Dylan Edwards are still going to get a job done. It wouldn't surprise me if Dill Edwards had a big Dill Edwards game, get man of the match, 250 run meters, 8 tackle breaks, a try and a try assist. He's been really quiet this series. So, yeah, it's probably not too far away, him or Latrell having a really big one.
Yeah, the Hammer one is interesting. And lining up at fullback, obviously, he could be that absolute difference maker, which we have seen in the past. The concern for me, New South Wales have limited Queensland fullbacks to only 29 points on average since 2021. But we know, and obviously, that's affected by the Reece Walsh clothesline at the start of the game last year. But we know what Hammer can do at the back. He moved to that position, that fullback role, after Reece Walsh went off. And during that game, he scored 80.4 GDS points, which is his best score for Queensland versus New South Wales since he debuted. So he's definitely got some upside at fullback as well. The interesting thing for me is I continue to think, and it's something that Mel said earlier about Tino, that something about Latrell is that there's no way he can have 2 poor Origin games without having an absolute banger in the third. But going back to his stats at the Queensland versus New South Wales level, that doesn't seem to be the case. On his debut, he scored 78, but since then it's sort of been around the 30s, and he hasn't really been able to get out of that sort of 35 average. So maybe he's not so much a big game player that we once thought he was, and maybe he's just not quite there. I don't know. We haven't really seen it in the last 2 games. It's sort of a 20 and a 35 in his last 2 games, the last 2 outings, which, not great really for someone of Latrell's standard, where we know he can, like we said, almost every week, he can break as many tackles. He can, run the length of the field and make a line break, score some tries, set up some tries, and then he's potentially got the kicking tee as well. So, I just don't know if it's completely stitched up for Latrell, but I'm still going to play him anyway because he's just got so much upside. And the moment that you see him break the line, you just know that it's all over for your team if you don't have him in your side. And as you said, the other one is Dylan Edwards, who has been pretty quiet, but we know what we'll probably get from Edwards in terms of, his over 100 metres, his kicks defusals, and his breaking tackles. So he's got that really safe floor in his base and power. Obviously doesn't make too many tackles himself in the fullback role, but then he's also got that upside. We saw in game 1, he had a try assist, and a line break to boot as well through that try. So we know that he's got that attacking upside sweeping around the back. And it's obviously a clear play for someone like Cleary and Edwards, and even Toto, Stephen Crichton. They've all played together, and Liam Martin as well. They've all played together at club level in the past. So it doesn't take much for them to be able to communicate and connect. So I think Edwards is also just an easy play. So I'll be spending a little bit of salary on these 3 players as well. There's potentially 1 or 2 Queensland versus New South Wales Origin cards getting around in my fullback spot as well, because I just feel like they're going to be the big names that are going to score well this game.
Okay, well, that makes my massive pod play even better. If you think these 3 are going to score massive, I don't advise anyone to do this unless you want to have a bit of fun and go for the rank 1 for this week. And the way that's going to work is those 3 players on the screen: Latrell, Hammer, Dill Edwards. Think which one is going to score the worst, drop them from your team, and put in Reece Walsh. Now, you mentioned it before. Last year, 2024, game 1, Reece Walsh lasted 7 minutes on the field. After that, pretty horrific tackle there from Joseph Suoliti. What that meant was the 18th man was activated because, he couldn't return due to foul play. That 18th man was, of course, Felice Kafusi, who's not going to play fullback, but the Hammer did go on a fullback. Now, if any of that happens across the park and that incident repeats itself, Reece Walsh is the 18th man. He gets activated. And even if he doesn't play fullback, wherever he does play, he could just be given a license to just be absolutely dynamite and just do whatever he wants, and he could light up the match and win it for the Maroons. Now, the likelihood of that happening is probably less than me opening up 100 unique packs and pulling a legend, because my pack luck is that poor. But it's possible. It's not out of the realms of possibility that could happen. So yeah, it's just so that I can clip this up in case it does happen. If Reece Walsh comes on after 7 minutes and has an absolute blinder, I'm obviously not playing him in my team.
No.
But anyone silly enough to listen to this dribble for the last 90 seconds and wants to follow, good on you. I can't
if you do follow that ridiculous theory, which I love too, by the way, even though it is ridiculous. If you are following that, I want to see a screenshot of your team, and I reckon we might reward you for your craziness if you do that. Look, the one thing that would be great if that does happen and we see Reece Walsh come on and play similar to what Ponga did a couple of years ago, where he was just given that license to just play through the middle and just get the ball in his hands and do whatever he likes. And if that's something that Reece Walsh has an opportunity to do, where there's no pressure on him at all, he's not making silly passes and silly errors because he's trying to get the ball out too quickly, he could be absolute dynamite. So yeah, that obviously, like you said, a very low percentage play, but one that could be a massive reward, and potentially bag you $1,000 in GDS prize money, and the the crowning glory of first place because of that absolute pod play. I love it.
I'll be hitting them up in their DMs for a chunk of that cash. Alrighty, mate. Anything more on the positions?
No, I think I've locked my team in. I have made it. I think I've kept Val Holmes at the moment. I don't think I'll change him. I hate changing last minute, but maybe 5 minutes to go before the game, I might just have a little freak out and go Val Holmes to critter. But other than that, I think I'm pretty much set.
Righto, sweet. Well, that brings us to Brodown Showdown. You got a little closer in game 2, mate. These are the results from game 2. You opted for Val and Payne Haas. I went for Hammer and Yo. We obviously had to pick one back and one forward across the 2 states. And I think the first match I got you by about 14 points. You closed the gap a little bit to about 6, but 2-0, game over, done and dusted. So what that means is you've had to give up one of 2 things. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we're going to play a game. We haven't played this for a while. I think the last time we did this, you chose the unique pack and you picked a legend, I believe, on stream. So you could potentially do that again. Look, we're going to run it a little bit differently though. So you are going to pick whether you would like the unique 3-player pack or the Reuben Cotter Queensland versus New South Wales card. Whatever you don't pick, we're going to spin the wheel for everyone that has commented both Stu or Dill across each of our Queensland versus New South Wales preview shows, and whoever spins up will receive whatever you don't select. So we want to say thank you to everyone for getting involved, and obviously because you've had a sweep, we're going to give away some extra cards to some lucky people or a lucky person. So, mate, in saying that, what would you rather? Would you rather the 3-player unique and try your luck, or would you rather the Reuben Cotter?
Am I on the clock? How long have I got for this?
Mate, you've got 30 seconds because, like you said, we need to go and make our pizza and
that's right.
Get ready.
Did we even talk much about Reuben Cotter? Apologies to Reuben if we didn't. But
we could talk about him now, mate. He is unreal. He is an absolute workhorse.
In your side as well.
He's in my side, and the key reason for me is 2-to-1 tackle break to missed tackle ratio, plus the 88 tackles that he's totaled across the first 2 games. He's just a machine. And look, I love his haircut, and when he runs, it just flows and it looks great.
Yeah, 66 minutes in game 2, plenty of tackles on the edge. Look, I think I'm going to run the Reuben Cotter. I am looking for a 5th Queensland versus New South Wales card, and getting his 1.4. I think he's going to be a really safe sort of 50-point play tonight. And rather than just rolling that out as a bronze, the unique. Sean's just said there might be some red in the unique.
Oh,
Shawnee. Dill, I'm gonna with tonight's money on the line and bragging rights for top 3. I'm gonna run the Reuben Cotter, please.
Love it. Okay, and I'm going to switch it up. I know we said a 3-player unique, but I'm going to switch it up because we can, and I'm going to open a 9-player unique. And we're going to spin 3 coaches, and they'll win a row each. So they'll win 3 cards each because we love giving away cards. And now Walkie's got me all excited about red being in here. I feel like we have to do it. So let's check out who's won a row. So 3 cards. Let's jump over to the wheel. As I said, everyone who has commented Stu or Dill across our first couple of previews for Queensland versus New South Wales, you are on the wheel here, and let's go. We're looking for 3 winners here.
Good luck.
The first one, congratulations. Row 1 is going to be to Tommy H. Good luck, mate.
You, Tom. Well done.
Alrighty. The second row, good luck, everyone.
Top row or the left row? What are we saying?
We'll go the top 3, middle 3, bottom 3. I reckon.
Oh, we've got Skip.
Just went past Mel, just over to Skip.
On your Skip.
Okay, and that bottom row there, the bottom 3 cards that I'm about to open. Get past Cal. It can't be Cal. Go to Ganners. Nah.
Respin.
Sorry, Cal. We're not giving you the chance, mate. Get him out of here.
Respin.
We're happy he commented, but he's out. Let's go again. And it's our good mate, Cozzy Posse. Love it. Okay, there. Love that. So let's get a unique pack up. I'm going to share this tab. So you should be able to see the pack there.
Yep, gotcha.
Beautiful. Here we go. Unique pack. The
Nice
animation you like to see. Here we go. Okay, so the top three are going to go to Tom H. So Tommy, you have got a
Any chance for a quick zoom?
Yep, let's zoom it in here.
Yes.
How's that?
Oh, go back one.
There we go. Okay, so Tommy H, you've got a Talakai, a Jones, and a Saluka Fafita Platinum.
Nice.
Skip, you've got a McCarthy, a Gaia, and a Billy Walters. Sorry, skippers. And finally, Cozzy, you have got Fine, the Diamond Gabrielle, and a Diamond Stone Street. Oh, there we go. There's one decent card to finish us off there. No red, unfortunately, but a couple of decent cards there for our viewers for supporting us. Thank you very much to everyone that commented. Unlucky Cal, yep. So Sean Walcott's getting in there. Poor Cal. Cal missed out on any prize cards. Too bad.
All right, Dill. That's it for another 12 months. The stage is set. Our teams are almost locked in. I'm sure there's going to be a couple of panic changes in this final 20 or 30 minutes rolling into kickoff. My advice, turn the phone off. Don't look at it. Enjoy the pizza and enjoy the show. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back next Wednesday at 7 p.m. to return to our regular proceedings with a preview of round 20. No more disruptions through because of Origin. We've got our last mini bye with 3 teams on the bye and then back to the regular one for the run home. So Dylan and I will be back next Wednesday to preview all things rugby league. But good luck tonight. Good luck with your Queensland versus New South Wales teams. Join us in the Discord to let us know who you've chosen to play. Make sure you're following the Fantasy Bros on Instagram as well to keep up with all of our news and all of our teams. Shawnee says up the Blues. Dill, you want to have the final word?
Yep. Unfortunately, Sean, I think that Queensland Maroons are going to get up. Munster's going to have a massive game, and I think Hammer's going to have a massive game. So unlucky, Shawnee. Unlucky to all those Blue supporters, particularly Game Day Tom as well. Up the Maroons. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Appreciate your support. Looking forward to round 20 live show. We're almost there. We're almost at the pointy end of the season. Mate, have a good one. Good luck to everyone's teams. And up the Maroons.
Thanks, Dill. See you guys.
Cheers,
up the Maroons.